The deep crimson hue of the descending sun bathed the rolling hills surrounding the ranch, creating a spectacle akin to a blazing tapestry against the dimming sky. Leaning against the barn door, Lily clutched an old, long-abandoned camera, her gaze distant as she stared at the empty landscape before her. That camera had once been an essential part of who she was, a symbol of her identity before she lost herself. Now, as it rested in her hands, it felt like a relic of forsaken dreams, stirring back to life. Moonlight, the white horse with a coat that gleamed like silver in the fading daylight, stood silently within its stall. Its large, dark eyes mirrored the golden glow of twilight, shifting occasionally as it let out soft, faint sounds, as if trying to bring Lily back to reality. Yet, her thoughts had drifted far, lost in a maze of old memories and unnamed emotions. A faint noise disturbed the stillness behind her, the gentle creak of footsteps on wood. She turned abruptly, her breath catching in her throat. "Who's there?" she called, her voice slightly unsteady, echoing through the quiet barn. No answer came. Only the wind responded, whistling through the cracks in the wooden beams, carrying the cool breath of the approaching night. As her heartbeat steadied and her vision adjusted to the dim lighting, she spotted him, Bash, leaning casually against one of the wooden pillars, his gaze locked onto her with an intensity that never wavered. "Why are you still out here so late?" His voice was deep and smooth, laced with curiosity, but also quiet concern. Bash had a way of appearing without warning, making her feel as though he had always been there, silently observing. "I don't know. I just felt like being here for a while," Lily admitted with a small, weary smile, heavy with unspoken emotions. She stepped forward slightly, meeting his sharp, penetrating eyes, which seemed to see straight through her. He remained silent, yet the weight of his gaze dismantled every defense she had meticulously constructed. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was charged, thick with words neither dared to voice aloud. "You still have that camera," Bash noted suddenly, his eyes flicking to the weathered device in her hands. "It's like you're holding on to a piece of your past." His words were deliberate, each one brushing against a part of her soul she had long tried to ignore. "Sometimes the past is all I have," Lily murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, but laced with unspoken sorrow. "Nothing else feels like mine anymore." Her words hung in the air, heavy with loss, much like a scar that had healed on the surface but remained tender underneath. Bash stepped closer, the distance between them now reduced to the space of a breath. "Then why not take back what you've lost?" he asked, his tone both challenging and inviting, urging her to break free from the invisible chains that bound her. Before she could answer, the deep rumble of a truck engine shattered the moment. Both turned toward the sound coming from the dirt road leading to the ranch. Headlights sliced through the darkness, casting long, shifting shadows against the barn walls. Caleb was home. His familiar truck moved slowly up the gravel path, its beams illuminating the barn like an unwelcome spotlight. "He's back earlier than expected," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible, trembling with a mix of apprehension and anticipation. Bash remained silent, but his expression darkened, his posture tensing. Caleb never returned without notice, and this unexpected arrival carried a sense of foreboding that neither of them could ignore. For a fleeting moment, time seemed to freeze. The camera in Lily's grasp felt suddenly heavier, slipping slightly in her grip as she watched Caleb's truck come to a stop, its engine cutting off with an ominous finality. The barn door groaned as it swung open, its hinges protesting under Caleb's firm push. A flashlight beam swept across the stalls before landing squarely on Lily's face. "Still out here." Caleb's voice was calm, almost casual, yet to Lily it carried the weight of an unspoken accusation. Instinctively, she took a step back, her eyes darting toward Bash. But Bash remained motionless, his expression unflinching. Caleb's arrival shattered the fragile sanctuary they had momentarily shared, leaving Lily standing in the middle of an unspoken storm. She could sense Bash behind her, strong, unwavering, but his shoulders had stiffened as if bracing for something inevitable. In that moment, everything felt different. Caleb's flashlight lingered on her, his expression unreadable, and Lily, with her heart pounding in her chest, understood that the carefully constructed life she had built, the secrets she had buried, and the emotions she had tried to suppress could no longer remain hidden. Sitting quietly on the wooden steps of the house, Lily watched as the pale moonlight draped the open fields in a silken glow. In her hands, the old camera Bash had pointed out earlier rested heavily, carrying the weight of memories she had long tried to forget. A gentle breeze rustled the dry grass, whispering through the trees, but her thoughts were elsewhere, drawn back to a time she had left behind. Once, when she was young and brimming with passion, the world had felt limitless, overflowing with possibilities. Lily had been an emerging talent in photography, capturing raw, unfiltered moments of nature and humanity. Her images did more than depict scenes. They evoked emotions, revealing unspoken truths that others often overlooked. Her work had been displayed in renowned galleries, each piece illuminated under golden light, drawing admiration from art enthusiasts. It was in one of those galleries that she met Caleb. He had been a young, ambitious man, exuding confidence and charm. He hadn't just been drawn to the artwork. He had been captivated by Lily herself. He purchased one of her most striking photographs, an image of an untamed field bathed in the fading glow of dusk. "It's like you," he had said, standing before the picture, beautiful, wild, and full of mystery. Those words had stirred something deep within her. It wasn't long before their connection evolved into a passionate romance. Caleb's unwavering determination made her feel seen, cherished, and grounded in a way she had never experienced before. He convinced her to leave behind the uncertainty of an artist's life to build a future with him. He painted grand visions of a spacious home, a tranquil ranch, and a life free from struggle, where happiness would thrive without interruption. At the time, Lily had been young, hopeful, and deeply in love. She agreed. She sacrificed everything: her career, her friendships, and the dazzling world of art. Moving to the ranch with Caleb had felt like stepping into a new chapter, one filled with promise. In the beginning, it was everything she had imagined, fresh and full of possibility. She learned to care for the horses, to nurture the flowers, and to embrace the peaceful rhythm of ranch life. But as time passed, she realized that peace was not the same as fulfillment. Caleb's work became all-consuming, drawing him further away. His business demands grew, leaving her isolated within the vast quiet of the ranch. The life she had envisioned became an empty echo of what she had once dreamed, and she found herself slowly fading into the silence. The burden of all she had sacrificed weighed heavily on her. And then there was Bash. Lily reflected on the first time she had met him during her final years at university, back when she was still an idealistic and passionate young woman who believed in boundless possibilities, embodying a free spirit. He was an artist, a man who thrived on adventure and took pleasure in pushing boundaries. He often joked that life was nothing more than an enormous canvas, and the greatest masterpieces emerged when one dared to tear through it. Frank Bash was the first person who made her feel truly unrestrained, free from rules and expectations. They spent exhilarating, carefree days camping in secluded places, chasing the perfect light for their photographs, capturing the world in its raw, untamed beauty. Bash was like fire, wild and uncontrollable. And just like fire, he could never stay in one place. When Lily chose the security that Caleb offered, Bash disappeared without a word, leaving behind a hollow ache in her heart, a pain she had never fully admitted to herself. Now, years later, he had returned like a storm, reviving memories she had tried so hard to bury. As she sat in the stillness of the night, she questioned whether she had made the right choice in leaving behind her old life and leaving behind Bash. The stability she now had was safe, yet it lacked the joy she had once envisioned. His presence was a stark reminder of the part of herself she had lost, the part that had once been free of responsibility and constraint. The sound of hooves on the dirt outside the barn pulled her from her thoughts. She lifted her head, spotting Moonlight standing calmly in the paddock, its large, curious eyes fixed on her, almost as if it were asking what she was thinking. Slowly, Lily rose to her feet and walked towards the horse. As her hand rested on Moonlight's velvety coat, a rush of emotions surged through her, something shifting inside, awakening. It felt as though Bash's reappearance had swept away the dust that had long settled over her spirit. But she knew deep down that change wouldn't come easily. Bash wasn't merely a memory from her past. He was a part of the self she had buried. And now, his return was not just a reminder. It was a challenge to confront what she had lost and to decide once more what she truly wanted from life. The golden light of the setting sun stretched across the land, casting a soft glow over the distant hills. Lily leaned against the fence, watching as moonlight galloped freely through the open paddock. The white horse was like a symbol of freedom, something she had always longed for but had never truly possessed. The sound of footsteps approaching from behind broke her reverie. Bash appeared, exuding his usual quiet confidence, though his eyes held a flicker of uncertainty. He stopped beside her, leaning casually against the fence, his shoulder nearly touching hers. "Why do you always watch moonlight?" Bash asked, his voice low and steady, yet probing, as if searching for a deeper meaning. Lily let out a quiet, weary chuckle. "Maybe because he has something I don't. Freedom." She turned to face Bash, her expression distant yet defiant, as if daring him to challenge her. But he didn't. He simply nodded, his silent acknowledgement conveying more than words ever could. "You don't have to live like this, Lily," Bash murmured, his voice rough but firm. "You're not trapped. You only think you are." His words cut through the barriers she had spent years constructing, but before she could respond, he had already turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, overwhelmed by emotions she could neither name nor suppress. Later that night, Caleb called to let her know he would be staying in the city for a few more days due to an unexpected meeting. Lily simply replied with a quiet, "Okay," before ending the call. She was used to him prioritizing work above all else, even her. But tonight, the loneliness of the house felt heavier than ever, the silence pressing in on her like a tangible force. Unable to stand it any longer, she pulled on a sweater and stepped outside, drawn instinctively to the barn, a place that had always felt more like home than the house ever had. Moonlight stood quietly in his stall, his dark eyes reflecting the dim light, watching her as if welcoming her presence. But this time, she wasn't alone. Bash was there, standing near a small oil lamp, carefully mending a worn bridle. He looked up when he saw her, a faint smile crossing his face. "Can't sleep?" Bash asked softly, his tone gentle yet curious. Lily shook her head, stepping closer to Moonlight, running her fingers absent-mindedly over the horse's sleek coat. She wasn't entirely sure why she had come, only that something deep inside had led her there. "Do you always work this late?" she asked, her voice light but hesitant, as if trying to shift the conversation away from the turmoil within her. Bash shrugged, his gaze lingering on her a moment longer than usual. "I like the quiet. What about you? What brings you out here?" Lily looked up, meeting his eyes in an unspoken understanding. The silence that stretched between them wasn't awkward. It was charged, as if an invisible thread was pulling them closer. Bash set down the bridle and took a slow step toward her. She didn't move, but her heart pounded, not with fear, but with an emotion she couldn't name, one she wasn't sure she deserved to feel. "Lonely," Bash murmured, his voice low, careful, as though he didn't want to break the fragile moment between them. You deserve more. Lily felt her breath catch. His words reached a place inside her that Caleb never had. She wanted to argue, to insist that she was fine, that everything was as it should be, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she leaned toward him, drawn as if by something beyond her control. In that instant, Bash lifted a hand, gently cupping her face. Lily closed her eyes, unable to resist, knowing full well that she was crossing a line from which there might be no return. Yet, with the warmth of his hand against her skin and the intensity of his gaze, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt seen, understood, and for the first time in what seemed like forever, she felt alive. The kiss that followed wasn't planned. It simply happened, as natural as breathing. It wasn't just the meeting of two people. It was the breaking of chains that had held her for far too long. In that moment, Lily didn't think about Caleb or the consequences. All that mattered was the undeniable truth. For the first time in years, she felt like herself again. A sudden noise in the distance shattered the delicate stillness, pulling them both back to reality. Lily flinched, her eyes widening. Bash took a step back as well, though his gaze remained steady, unwavering, as if silently asking her what she would do next. "Lily," he murmured, his tone gentle, almost imploring, yet she merely shook her head, swiftly turning and rushing from the barn without another glance, leaving him ensnared in the suffocating weight of the moment they had just shared. As she hurried toward the house, her thoughts swirled in a storm of fear and uncertainty. She was acutely aware that she had ventured into treacherous territory, yet she couldn't ignore the fire that had been kindled within her, a flame she was unsure she wanted or could extinguish. Seated in the kitchen, Lily absent-mindedly stirred a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold, her gaze unfocused. The dim glow from the overhead light barely dispelled the oppressive heaviness in her chest. Caleb had returned the previous night, and the moment he stepped inside, she sensed a shift in him. The usual indifference was absent, replaced by a quiet, piercing scrutiny, as though he was searching for something she was desperate to conceal. "Is there something you need to tell me?" His voice sliced through the silence, low and sharp, like a knife cutting through the air. Lily stiffened, slowly raising her head to meet his stare. He stood near the doorway, his tie slightly loosened, his briefcase still in his grasp, but his eyes never wavered from her. "What do you mean?" she asked, forcing her voice to remain level, though the unraveling within her was undeniable. She understood exactly what he was implying. The truth simmered beneath the surface of his words. Caleb stepped forward deliberately, setting his briefcase down on the table with a heavy thud that made her flinch. "Don't pretend you don't know, Lily. You've changed lately, spending so much time at the barn, avoiding me." He finally uttered Bash's name like an accusation, a dagger aimed straight at her. A chill rushed through her veins. What about Bash? she asked, feigning ignorance, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. She was losing her grasp on the situation. Caleb leaned over the table, his fists pressing into the wood as he inched closer, his eyes burning with a fury she had never seen before. I hired a private investigator, Lily. I have photos of you and Bash in the barn. His voice was low and menacing, each word striking like a blow. It felt as if her world was collapsing. She bolted to her feet, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You followed me," she cried, her voice quivering under the weight of the revelation. Caleb straightened, his expression unyielding, cold. "I had every right to. This is our marriage. Did you truly believe I would allow you to betray me without repercussions?" Her heart pounded violently, threatening to shatter. She struggled to formulate a defense, but found herself unable to speak. The truth was evident. Her betrayal wasn't only in her actions, but in her heart, in the way she had long since detached herself from Caleb. Piece by piece, for years, she had felt no connection to him, no real partnership. Yet standing here now, facing his fury, she realized how far beyond repair everything had become. A sudden knock at the door shattered the suffocating silence, making both of them tense. Caleb's eyes narrowed suspiciously as he strode to the door and swung it open. Bash stood there, his face calm, but his eyes gleamed with determination. "I need to talk to you," Bash said evenly, though an undercurrent of urgency lay beneath his words. Caleb regarded Bash as though staring down a formidable opponent. "You have a lot of nerve showing up here," he sneered, his voice laced with warning. Bash remained resolute. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here because of Lily." Her skin went pale, her breath caught as she looked between the two men, unable to predict what would unfold next. Caleb turned back to her, his gaze darkening. "So it's true," he said, his voice low, trembling with anger. "You won't even deny it, will you?" "That's enough, Caleb," Bash interjected, stepping inside before Caleb could block him. He positioned himself between them, as though shielding her. "You don't understand her. You never truly have. She deserves more than this." Tears stung Lily's eyes, but she refused to let them fall, unwilling to show weakness, especially not before these two men, both of whom seemed to be fighting for pieces of her she wasn't sure she even owned anymore. "Stop," she whispered, her voice barely steady. But neither of them listened. Caleb stepped toward Bash, his expression ablaze with anger. "You think you know her better than I do? That you have some kind of right to stand here and say this?" His voice rose, thick with rage. Bash, however, remained unfazed. "It's not about rights. It's about what she deserves." The air in the room became stifling, the tension unbearable, as if the moment teetered on the brink of disaster. Lily stood frozen, her heart splintering beneath the weight of obligation and longing, torn between the life she had built and the one she had abandoned. She had no clear path forward, but she knew that after tonight, nothing would be the same. Later, she stood in the barn, her trembling hands grazing moonlight's smooth coat. The familiar scent of wood, hay, and sweat lingered, yet the space felt different, heavy with uncertainty. Bash's final words echoed in her mind, reverberating like a bell she couldn't silence. "I'm here because you deserve to be happy." There was something raw, undeniable in the way he had said it, a truth she had spent too long denying. Caleb had left, not in forgiveness, but in defeat. He couldn't stay. He couldn't bear to watch her make a choice he already knew in his heart. His last glance at her was a mixture of heartbreak and fury, as if she had shattered not just his trust, but the image of the devoted wife he had so carefully curated. Before walking away, he delivered one final chilling statement, one that rooted her in place. "You need to decide what your life will be from here on." The barn door creaked open, and Bash stepped inside, his movements quiet, but weighted with meaning. For a moment, he merely observed her, his eyes searching hers, as if trying to see through the walls she had spent years constructing. "Are you okay?" he finally asked, his voice low, steady, yet filled with quiet concern. Lily did not answer right away. She turned to look at him, recognizing that he was waiting for some form of response. A gesture, a word, anything to show she was ready to face him. Yet hesitation gripped her, her emotions tangled like an intricate knot she couldn't unravel. "I don't know," she murmured, her voice barely more than a breath. "I don't know what to do." Bash moved a step closer, his approach steady and measured, his presence radiating reassurance without imposing on her. "You don't need to have all the answers right now," he said with quiet kindness. "You just need to take a step. What makes you feel like yourself? I'm not here to push you toward a decision. I'm here because I care about your happiness." His words caused tears to well in Lily's eyes. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she felt allowed to be uncertain, flawed. Bash lifted a hand but didn't make contact, letting her decide whether she wanted him near. The choice was entirely hers. She could determine if she wanted him to stay. "Bash," Lily began, but her voice wavered, the words she needed failing her. She wasn't sure what to say or if she could offer him what he sought. More than that, she questioned if she was ready to let go of everything that had once connected her to Caleb, even if their bond was now nothing more than the scattered remnants of something long broken. Bash's expression softened with an understanding smile, one tinged with sadness. "I'll go," he said gently, "but if you ever need me, I'll be here. Turning, he slowly walked away from the barn, leaving Lily alone beneath the moonlight, caught in the whirlwind of her thoughts. She watched him disappear into the dimness outside. A part of her wanted to chase after him, to call him back, but another part rooted her in place, binding her to the past with invisible chains she wasn't ready to break. At least not yet. That night, Lily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of her empty room. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it the crisp air of change. She couldn't sleep, but neither did she want to close her eyes. Everything was different now, and she wasn't sure if she had the strength to embrace that change. By morning, Caleb was gone. He left no explanations, just a set of keys and a small note resting on the kitchen table. The ranch is yours. Lily picked up the note, a strange blend of relief and hollowness settling within her. She stepped outside, where the early light stretched over the fields, turning the dew-covered grass into shimmering gold. Moonlight stood in the paddock, his large eyes fixed on her, as if he understood something she had yet to grasp. Lily reached for her old camera and walked toward him. Raising it to her eye, she peered through the viewfinder, and for the first time in years, something stirred inside her, a flicker of familiarity, a spark of hope, a sense of freedom. She didn't know if she would ever return to Bash, nor if Caleb would ever forgive her. But she realized that before she could find those answers, she had to begin by finding herself. The camera shutter clicked softly as she captured her first photograph in years. And in that fleeting instant, Lily felt, however faintly, that this might be the start of something new, something she would shape on her own, even if the path ahead was filled with uncertainty and unanswered questions.